So today we are going to go through a quick demo of the features and functionality of forms and meeting schedulers, and we'll touch on a couple of the ways they integrate with the rest of the product. But for the most part, we're going to stay within the form and meeting scheduler configuration, so we can kind of see all the capabilities and what they can do. Let me figure out how to share the correct tab here. Okay, so we'll start in the meeting or in the form builder here. This is located in the forms section. Form submissions is where you're going to see the outcome of your clients and customers filling out the forms, and the form builder is where you'll actually configure the form fields, conditions, all that fun stuff. So we'll start with a blank one. And on the left here, these are all of the input types or layout types that you can put into your form builder. The inputs are in the top. These are general content. So if you want images or text boxes, buttons that link to other websites, those will be down here. And things in the layout section allow you to control the flow and visual layout of the form. So we'll just kind of start at the top, go through them real quick. Checkboxes are pretty self-explanatory. You have some options here, whether you prefer to format them vertically or horizontally. They'll kind of just flow out to the right and then wrap around if it gets too long. You can add your options, and mapping keys are important for integration into other parts of the product. I'll touch on that after we kind of get through building a form here. And then mapping actually will allow you to tie the answers to these questions to fields in your CRM. So this becomes really important when you're building, say, like a lead generation form. You can tie out each field and say exactly what the answer to that field will populate in the sales pipeline opportunity or the client record. And you can see there are all of the basic contact fields in here for things that you might collect as you're getting to know one of your customers. All of these interfaces are kind of the same for configuring the options. You drag it to the right wherever you want it. You can configure it. If you want to remove it, you can click the little trash can. If you want to duplicate it, you can click the copy. And when you're done, you just click done, you go back to this screen. So we can kind of go through these. Date is pretty self-explanatory. File uploads. This allows you to allow people to send you files. So maybe you're a graphic designer and you need assets, examples, logo files, whatever. You can allow more than one file. And then if you want, you can restrict file types. So maybe if you're asking just for logos, you just want to select images so people aren't seeing all of the different file types. And that'll control when the little window opens up and they're selecting their files. Anything that's not the right file type will be grayed out, and so it'll help people see exactly what type of file you're asking them for. Multiple choices is very similar to checkboxes, except checkboxes you can choose more than one. Multiple choices is a radio button. You can only choose one. Good for yes, no, or mutually exclusive type of answers. Select box, also similar to these, except it's a drop-down control. Text area is longer text. You can control, you can kind of give space here based on what type of answer you're expecting. If you want a long dissertation, you can make it longer. And then we've got a text input, which is a single line text. And this one has some additional cool stuff where you can validate as a phone or an email. And if you put it into a phone mode, then you actually get like an intelligent country code selector, plus it'll verify that the phone number is valid. and it'll select the country code based on the physical location of the person. So they shouldn't have to select it unless maybe they're on a VPN and it's got the wrong physical location. But if you're in Canada, that should show the Canadian flag. If you're in Ireland, it should show the Irish flag, and then it'll enforce the phone number rule based on the country that it's in. So it should ensure that you're always getting clean phone number data when you're capturing info from your client. Moving down images, you kind of get this image space, and then you can click upload and you can put an image here. You can also drag and drop an image. Let's see if I have a screenshot or something I can put in there. I'll just drag and drop a little image there. It uploads, and then you can kind of fine tune what you want to happen with that image. This is, however you want to use images in your forms. Could be your logo, could be images, could be branding stuff, but you can upload them. And then this will be you'll see all of your images across all of your elements. So it kind of creates a little library for your form so you can reuse images if you want. Let's see, horizontal dividers are pretty self-explanatory. You can just create a little visual separation. You can create more visual separation, do a little styling, etc. Page breaks are cool. They can allow you to break your form up into multiple pages. So if you have a long form, then you might want to say, let's ask 2 questions, put a page break, ask 2 more questions, put a page break. And when you're building the form, you'll actually see it all on one page. But when you go to share it, you'll just see the 2 questions, and then the user can toggle forward and back. And then vertical spacing is exactly as advertised, just allows you to put some space between 2 if you want to fine tune things a bit. And then we have the container, which is useful for, if you want to capture 2 column forms. So you could do containers. They can have background images in the columns, all kinds of fun stuff. So you can get a little bit crazy with them if you want to go 3 columns. It's just allows you to put stuff into a little more horizontal and vertical stacking organization. Okay, so that's kind of all the stuff you can drag into your form. Let's talk about making it do something useful. And so some of these, not every question you need to get an answer to every time. And so we have the concept of conditional logic. And so when you click on an element here and you click on the conditional logic tab, you can enable that. And you can say, maybe we only want to show this option if they have, I didn't actually pay attention to what I named anything. So I don't know what field 14 is. I wasn't paying attention to setting this up, but maybe you only want to show this if field 14 was actually answered. Or you can look for a specific answer, or you can look for a specific set of answers, and you can add more than one of these if you want to have and or statements. But at the end of the day, you can control what's visible based on previous answers in the form. And you'll know if you have a conditionally visible field here because it'll have this little branching logic icon. And when you go click into it, you'll see the green check indicating that it's currently active on that. And you can apply conditional visibility to individual form fields, or in this case, since we have a container that wraps up 4, maybe you have a whole set of questions you want to get answers to. If they selected one option in the dropdown, you can put the conditional logic on the whole container and show or hide it. So pretty powerful, allows you to really fine tune the experience, build a more complex form as somebody's answering it and only capture the information that you need. Going over to the settings tab, the confirmation email template allows you to control when somebody submits your form. If you want to send them a follow-up email right after they submit, or a confirmation email, you can choose one of your email templates that you've built in the inbox section or the communicator section. And then you can use tokens and echo back form answers to them. If you've captured a first name field, your email template can use the form.firstname to say, "Hi, whoever just submitted the form, thanks for completing your form. We'll get back to you." So you can use the tokens from the form directly in the email template to add some personalization to it. Add submission to pipeline. This is really important if you want your forms to be used for lead gen purposes. So you can capture off your website, maybe you have a link in your email address or your email footer, but you get new leads, they fill out the form, and then you want that to automatically create an opportunity in sales pipeline, which then can flow into the whole workflow automation stuff and all the other features of Moxie. But this one's pretty powerful. And then the reason why you can choose the stage is because this will determine what stage, what column in the pipeline the opportunity goes into. And any of the data that you've captured that gets mapped to the CRM fields will automatically show up in the lead info. The form will be attached to the opportunity record, allowing for a nice handoff from a form to the opportunity. This works similarly. So if you are using our ticketing system and you want to have an embedded form on your website that allows your customers to open tickets with you, you can choose to have this form submission create a ticket. And if you have an email address, then we'll try to find the client that the ticket's for, or if there's no client known by that email address, then it'll just open kind of an anonymous ticket, and then you'll need to set the client and the contact. But the submission here would result in a new ticket in the ticketing system. You get a notification that both a form and a ticket were opened, and then you could process the request accordingly. Redirect. This is typically used if you want to send to like a thank you page, or a lot of times people use this to send to a page that has a conversion tracking pixel on it. So maybe you have a website that has meta tracking pixels and you've got a specific page that you want to send people to after they fill out the form, so you can fire the meta event to track the form filled. You can just put in your website, and this will work whether it's embedded or whether it's a standalone form, so you can still get that tracking data. This response message just pops up, "Thank you." You can leave it blank, and then it'll just redirect, or you can say, "Thanks for submitting your form." It's just a little confirmation letting people know it went through successfully. Let's see. Send results and notification email. Sometimes you're capturing personal data. Sometimes you're not wanting everything that gets entered into here to be sent around via email. And so you can turn this off. If it's on, the email notification that you get as the Moxie workspace owner will contain a list of all of the form answers that they provided. So typically it's really helpful, so you can just scan your email and see what they answered. But if there's sensitive information or things that you're just not comfortable being sent around via email, you can turn that off, and then the notification you get will just say there's been a form submission. Go into Moxie and take a look at it. Styles and stuff is all relatively self-explanatory. Choose your font size. You can choose some of the general styling of your form fields. Submit buttons. We got some icon selections, colors. The idea here is, without a bunch of heavy lifting, get it to generally match the style of your website, especially if you're embedding. Like get the font, get the brand colors, get the icons, and then if you need to target specific things, like maybe you use 8 pixel or 16 pixel radius on your buttons and you want things to be more round, you could get into the CSS selectors and actually fine tune stuff. So that's pretty much the form builder. And now, how do you use these forms? So you click the share button and you can get a direct link to your form. This would let somebody fill it out. Or if you're going to be embedding it on your website, you can click this, and this is a ready to go snippet that allows you to paste this anywhere into your code on your website, and your form would show up there. We use one external library called iframe resizer. Oops, let me go back into that. And the iframe resizer library allows the form and the div that it sits in on your website to change height based on the content. And so that works. It's important, especially if you're doing multi-page forms, because the height of that's going to be constantly shifting based on the content on each page. And you don't want to have like a big giant div with a bunch of white space. And so we solved that with this iframe resizer library, and so that's why there's a little bit of extra code here outside of just a normal iframe. So before we go over to meeting schedulers and do a quick demo of the features there, I do just want to show one cool, well, there's two other things. We have a template library of pre-built forms. So these are great starting points if you just want to see what we have in our library. You can import them. They have some styling, logo spot. They've got the mapping, the padding all set up. And we've kind of like fine-tuned each of these for a particular field, like graphic designers, web developers, photographers, and then tried to build out what's like a baseline functional form to solve whatever problem that label is for. So as you're going through it, you'll see these are kind of who we have them for, and then down here it'll generally show you like what type of form it is that you're importing. And we have one other cool feature, which is the assistant. So you can say, it'll kind of suggest things that look generally what you might need. Totally conversational, chat GPT based, so you can pretty much ask it whatever comes to mind and it'll figure it out. The system, the integration here knows about all of our different form types, mappings, structures, all that. So you can get it to where you want. It'll kind of echo back the summary of what it's going to do, and then you click create. And in a couple seconds here, you'll have a fully built form that does the things you asked it to do. Or OpenAI will time out, one of the two. There we go. So some of the cool stuff here is that not only did it add a bunch of form elements for you, but it's smart enough to know how to map them, how to properly name the mapping keys, what should be required, what shouldn't. So if you don't find something in our pre-built library, this is a great place to start and save yourself a bunch of time. Okay, let's go through the meeting schedulers real quick. All right, I will. So the meeting scheduler is, for those of you who aren't familiar with the product, it is a Calendly replacement. It pretty much does all the things that Calendly does, allows you to choose where your meeting is going to be located, Office, a Microsoft Teams meeting, a Google Meet, Zoom. It allows you to configure what your availability is, lets you check availability against any of your linked calendars. So maybe you want to link your personal iCloud and your business Gmail, and maybe you have another business that uses Office 365. You can link all those in the Moxie integrations, and the meeting scheduler will allow you to check all of them and make sure you're not double booking yourself. So we've got all these different types of locations. So I'll choose a Google Meet, which will be tied to my Google Calendar. Add meeting to pipeline works just like the forms, where when somebody books a meeting with you, you can add an opportunity to the pipeline. A lot of folks will put an embedded meeting schedule on their website as a lead gen tool instead of just a form. So maybe if the first touch point they want to have is a conversation, you can embed a meeting instead of a form, which is pretty helpful. So the availability is kind of where we get into how you configure when you want to take meetings. This time zone is relative only to how you configure these times. One of the nice things about the Moxie meeting scheduler is everyone will see these times in their own time zone. So nobody has to do any mental gymnastics to figure out like when am I booking a meeting for. So if I sent my meeting scheduler to Michelle and she opened it up, she's 2 hours before me, she would see 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. when she was seeing my open time slots. Nobody has to do anything, it just works magically. So check availability against calendar. This is where if you have lots of different calendars connected, you'd see them all in this list. In the advanced section, this is where you can really kind of start to fine tune some of the rules around how many meetings you're allowed booking a day, a week, a month, how far out in the future, if you want buffer time before or after a meeting, how close people can reschedule or cancel meetings. So I don't like to be surprised with a meeting same day, so I always have mine set up so I only offer 2 slots a day typically, and you have to book at least 24 hours in advance. So you can really kind of fine tune, how you want to expose your availability. Question form. This is where the form builder we were just looking at and the meeting scheduler come together, and you can choose your forms, and they actually become data capture forms embedded in the meeting scheduler. So step 1, people will choose what time slot they want. Step 2, they'll have to fill out all the form, and then they can book. Confirmation and reminders. We've got basically native calendar, which is the little pop-up that your Google Calendar will give you that says you have a meeting in 15 minutes. We have email, which is you can customize an email template that says, hey, you've got a meeting coming up in X minutes. We also, if you're using the Moxie communicator phone, you can send text messages to remind people, thank them for booking or remind them. So I use the text message feature on my meeting scheduler. So they get a confirmation email when they book, and then 15 minutes before the meeting, I send them a text that says, hey, first name, just a reminder, we have a meeting coming up in 15 minutes. And the rate of my no-shows is almost 0. So that text message definitely helps get people to remember they have a meeting and they show up, which there's nothing worse than setting aside half an hour and not having the person show up. So you've got some, like tokens you can use in the SMS, so you can, just like anywhere else, you can send the meeting link. So that would say, hi, Michelle, and then it would have the Google meeting link right below it so they could click it right from their text message to log in to the meeting. Meetings also have the option to be paid. This workspace does not have a Stripe integration, but if it did, you'd have a little toggle. You could set the dollar amount or whatever currency your workspace is in, and somebody would have to actually put in a credit card to book the meeting. Great for anything where you want to collect money before you're actually getting having the meeting be booked. And then in the preview form, this is where you can really kind of customize the content. And so all of these are tokens. So you can click into all these text areas and you can fully customize what's in the left bar. On the form, you can fully customize stuff, meeting confirmation. So not only does this provide like good functionality for customizing what you want to show, but if you need a meeting scheduler in a different language, you can fully change out everything that's English to whatever language you need it displayed in. File, very similar to what we saw in the form builder. You can choose your brand colors, buttons, whether to display the logo or not. And then these just allow you to customize the text of those buttons. One will link right to a Google Calendar and one will download an ICS file. Also, most people don't change those unless they have a meeting schedule in a different language, and then they change it to say the same thing in a different language. So we are almost out of time. So I think I'll probably stop here without going into too much of the other features and functionality, which we've already covered on a lot of the demos. And I think we'll open up for a little bit of Q&A with the folks that are on the call.